Hey folks, this clip is brought to you by the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, Zen Sports. Enter code A to Z TN, ATOZ TN to earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. That is Zen Sports. All right. We are back here on the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. Not a full episode this week because of some scheduling conflicts with Zach and I. We got to make this content when we can. So we're going to be talking about just the few things that happened this past week for Tennessee sports. Now, thankfully, those few things were pretty big. First and foremost, baseball wins the SEC tournament in dramatic fashion. I would say it's those boys don't make it easy on you. Probably going to have a heart attack in the future because of them, but that's all right. It's worth it. You won the SEC tournament. And then we're going to talk about Chaz Lanier committing to Tennessee basketball. That I think rounds out probably one of Rick Barnes' best rosters. So we'll talk about it all. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. What's up, man?
Just kind of getting used to these SEC tournament, championships that we, seem to be celebrating quite often lately. It's not even like a big deal anymore. It's just like, oh, another one. Yeah.
Yeah, it really went. Growing up, it was like the football team won the SEC championship in 1998, and then it was nothing in almost any sport at all until 2020, and then all of a sudden it's been like regular season championships and tournament championships and all this stuff, all from baseball, softball, basketball. We do have to get back and win that at football SEC championship again. That is definitely key. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it was kind of disheartening last season. Last year with the SEC East to not even win the division that one last time. If not for Georgia, if they wouldn't have found Kirby Smart, I think this past couple of years could have been pretty fruitful. But that's how it goes.
If only. We'll get him though. Got Nico this year, and Nico and no divisions this year.
Yeah,
because I said it before. In 2021, Tennessee would have made the SEC championship game against Georgia if there were no divisions. So just do that again. Just replicate that amazing season that was the best in the last 20 years, and we'll be good.
Yeah, easy as that.
Good luck, Josh Heupel. Let's talk about baseball. Baseball won the SEC tournament this weekend, and then they got their draw for the NCAA tournament. And this was a lot of fun because, I guess this part wasn't fun. You lost to Vandy kind of to start the tournament, and that was not ideal. Thankfully, you were playing in the double elimination round, and you came back and you didn't lose after that. You just went straight through everybody else, including Vandy again, which, man, it's always great to win an SEC title. But to beat Vandy in baseball on the way to an SEC title is just so satisfying. It's like beating Kentucky basketball it's on the way to an SEC tournament championship in basketball. Like it is just right up there with one of the funnest things that you can do. But did you get to watch all this, Zach?
Yeah, I thought, speaking of Vanderbilt, I thought the kind of the funniest part of that storyline is Tennessee's dominance, obviously, over Vanderbilt over the last several years. And then Vandy manages to win 2 in a row, technically against Tennessee. Last game of that 3-game series during the regular season, and then that game early in the SEC tournament. Tennessee's only lost in the SEC tournament, and Vanderbilt fans, all of a sudden, it was like they thought it was 2015 again or something. I don't know. They were talking trash about Tennessee being this basketball school now, not a baseball, all this different kind of stuff. It's like nobody's even going to remember those 2 games, especially the one during the regular season, but even the one in the SEC tournament. I don't think a single person is going to remember those games from this year, no matter what happens. So Vandy fans had fun with that. Tennessee got the last laugh there.
Yeah, Vandy fans, they do try to pump out their chest on the very few occasions when they can. That door opened for about 2 days, and then Tennessee slammed it right in their face again. I say that every time we beat Vandy at almost anything. They suck at most sports, baseball not being one of them, actually. But man, it's satisfying every single time because it's just they're elitist, their whole deal, man. They're just, oh, we're the Harvard of the South. I don't know if they actually call themselves that, but I assume they do. And just nose in the air. Oh, we're over here at National West End. Oh
Can
boy.
you really call yourself that when Jay Cutler is one of your most famous alumni?
Hey, man. He's what was Jay's greatest accomplishment? Marrying that girl from the
Yeah,
hills.
reality TV, I think was
Yeah,
it. And I like Jay Cutler. He's a
yeah, he's
interesting
fun.
guy to listen to. He's got some good stories, but not a guy that would have been going to Harvard.
No, definitely not. But ultimately, you actually beat LSU in the championship game, and the thing that keeps coming back is just that this offense with this baseball team is relentless. It's undeniable, and even you had guys who had shelled for you this season in Billy Amick. He had a terrible tournament overall, but when it mattered, he hits the most important home run of the entire tournament for you against LSU when you were kind of flatlining, and he comes up huge. And on top of that, you add the insurance run that ultimately was the winning run, and for you were up 4-1 at that point, and you felt pretty secure. But then in the ninth inning, of course, gave up 2 runs. It was looking pretty dicey there for Aaron Combs. But hey, even with the pitching, Aaron Combs comes in, looks, not his best. But then when it mattered with those final 2 batters, now the final 2 batters were the literal bottom of LSU's order,
Yeah.
but still, it doesn't matter. In that spot, you can melt down. And I think there were a lot of Tennessee fans, including the guys that I was watching that game with on Sunday afternoon. We were all kind of sitting around saying, man, wouldn't that be just so Tennessee to get walked off by the last dude in the order in the SEC championship game? But Combs got it together. He struck him out, ended the game. You win the title. And now you are the number 1 overall seed after that fun weekend. And of course, speaking of Tennessee fans, the way that we are, nobody's like, yeah, we're the number 1 seed. Let's go embrace it. The only talking point is that the number 1 overall seed in the tournament hasn't won since, is it like 1997 or something? Miami did it, I think. It's been a long time. And of course, that's the talking point with Tennessee fans, is that because we're the best team in America right now, that means we're going to lose in the NCAA tournament. But are you pro or anti number 1 curse, Zach?
I think I'm both, because I don't believe in curses, but at the same time, I'm a Tennessee fan, so I do believe in curses. It's kind of a paradox that I live in here. So it's like, if it can happen, it would happen to Tennessee, but at the same time, nothing that's happened in the past 25 years should have an impact on what happens in these games that haven't even been played yet. I hate that the narrative is there, because I think that can get into the heads of players potentially. I'm not saying I think that's going to be an issue with this Tennessee team. They've seemed to stay pretty focused this entire season, especially the last half of the season. But still, you never know how college kids might take that, or might kind of let that seep into their mind a little bit, and maybe not play their best. They're really, their mindset has to be, everybody's the same seed out there. Everybody's just as dangerous. Everybody can advance. We've seen it plenty of times before. And, my gut says that they will be okay with that. And, who knows how the games play out. But, winning the SEC tournament in the way they did, it's kind of been the narrative. It didn't really feel like Tennessee was going all out to win the tournament. I mean, they're out there playing hard every single out, doing everything they can to win the games. But as far as the way that the games were managed, it was more geared towards the tournament, what pitching and keeping that fresh, not putting too much on guys. So the fact that they were able to beat one of the hottest teams in the country is what Tony Vitello said over and over and over after beating LSU. And they were playing really good baseball. They're going to the Chapel Hill Regional. LSU, not quite the juggernaut they were last season when they had Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, but they're getting hot at the right time. And those are the teams, like that type of game Sunday is the type of game Tennessee's going to be playing. in the regionals, in the super regionals if they advance, if they get to Omaha. Those are the types of games. So I thought it was a really good kind of build up to the NCAA tournament. You're hosting the regional there in Knoxville, just because that kind of intensity, that's going to be what you're facing out there, and to be able to get that win when it didn't look like you were putting your best foot forward in terms of how you were managing the game. I thought that's huge as far as just how good this team really is. I mean, that's got to be
Yeah.
a fantastic sign moving forward, I think.
Having to gut out a big win like that in huge spot with the bottom of your dugout or sorry, your bullpen, not your dugout, your bullpen. I mean, Dylan Loy comes in and was awesome. Like you got this great play out of a dude that's completely unproven, and suddenly you're like, oh, well, our bullpen's even deeper now, which is great. You got AJ Russell back. Now you got him back for one inning, and then they took him out, and they're looking at his elbow in the dugout, and then they didn't put him back in. Hopefully, just precautionary.
Yeah, Vitello seemed to think that. I mean, I don't think he was even aware that the broadcast showed that. Maybe he's being coy. Maybe he's learned a few tricks from Josh Heupel. I have no idea. But it seemed like he wasn't overly concerned about him at that point. So I think he was on a pitch count, and there was just an awkward point in the inning or in the game where it's like, okay, well, if we put you back out, then you're at risk. Then we got to figure out when we're going to take you out again, type deal. I think that was more the situation there.
I hope so, because man, I just want Russell to be available. Obviously,
yeah,
I mean,
that'd be a nice ace in the hole to have if he's effective.
Exactly, and he came in, pitched a nice. He gave up a 500 foot home run, but besides that single pitch, he actually pitched a nice inning overall. If you look at it in its entirety,
if somebody was talking about illegal bats, not that I'm making any accusations, because these bats are insane these days. The way they're made, the way they just kind of push the limits. But that was Jared Jones, I believe, that hit that home run for LSU. He's not like a monstrous guy. Like you don't expect 500 and some feet to come from that bat.
Yeah,
at least I didn't.
It was ridiculous. I mean, just connected perfectly or something else. But that was real. I mean, that was the bulk of what LSU did offensively. I believe after the third inning, they didn't get a hit until maybe the ninth inning, eighth inning, something like that. They showed it on the broadcast. I don't remember exactly what they said, but yeah, just impressive stuff. The correct word is gutting it out. I mean, that is what Tennessee did. They dug deep and found a way. And again, the offense is just relentless. It is undeniable. And you really saw that there because it came up when it mattered. Everybody contributed. It was awesome. I mean, from like Hunter Inslee, dude is coming up so big in huge moments. And you're getting great contributions from him. Not even from, not only do you have the best hitter in the entire SEC in Christian Moore, followed by Blake Burke, who was the MVP of the SEC tournament. And then you got guys down the line, Dreiling, Inslee, all of these dudes falling down. And then you had, Cal Stark makes probably the play of the tournament, throwing from his knees and guns a guy down at first base. It was incredible. Just everything about it came together. And obviously what you have to hope is that same exact thing translates over to the NCAA tournament now. And it is a whole different thing. You have what the exact lineup is. Northern Kentucky is your first game, but in your regional, Southern Miss again. You played at their super regional last year, and you beat them on the way to the College World Series. And then Indiana, and who's the?
That's it. Yeah, Tennessee.
No, that's it. That's the three teams. Yeah, right. Yeah. That's the three other teams. Sorry, I was thinking there's four teams. Well, Tennessee's the fourth team. I'm just an idiot. But yeah, in Indiana, Southern Miss, Northern Kentucky is your regional. Now, the thing that people balked at was that down the line, you're set up to potentially play Wake Forest with Chase Burns. At the same time, that's actually not the most likely team that you'll probably play coming out of all of those regions. It's probably, would it be Florida State and who's the other?
Well, Wake Forest is in the ECU regional, I believe, in Greenville. It matches up. I don't know if Florida State.
Sorry, did I look at it wrong when I looked? Maybe I looked at it wrong because let's see, NCAA. So it would be.
I believe it's the ECU regional that matches up with the Knoxville regional. I'm pretty sure that's the way that worked.
Chase Burns is the picture on the thing that I'm looking at. Let's see, Wake Forest, but Wake Forest is. Yeah, they're the number 2 seed. Oh, okay. So I just got confused here. So Wake Forest plays East Carolina, or it plays in East Carolina's bracket, and then it's Evansville and VCU there. But ECU is the number 1 team, and people were balking at that, saying like, "Oh, the NCAA did that on purpose." Here's the thing: the NCAA definitely did do that on purpose. They absolutely did. But do I really care about that? Because this was never going to be easy. People were complaining about Southern Miss too. Well, it's football season, and it's time to switch to Zen Sports, the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, changing the bonus game with their cash rewards program. When you sign up for Zen Sports with code A2ZTN, ATOZTN, earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. And if you have friends who bet on sports, share your Zen Sports referral bonus code with them, and you will earn 3% of their betting volume for their first 6 months of betting on Zen Sports with no cap on how much you can earn. So what are you waiting for? Stop wasting time and money on other sports books when you could be earning real cash rewards with Zen Sports. Download today on the App Store at zensports.com. And your wallet will thank you later. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee to bet. That is Zen Sports. Go download it now. You beat Southern Miss relatively easily last year in their super regional. And it's kind of like when you talk about it with the basketball team. You know, we really wanted to make that Elite Eight, make that Final Four. And you looked at Tennessee's draw and you went, oh, it's a really hard draw. They did this on purpose. What? It was never going to be easy. It never is going to be. You're always going to have to go through those teams. Like last year, everybody was going to have to go through Paul Skeens. And ultimately, nobody could. That's won them a national championship. And he turns out he's a generational player, and it's just ridiculous how good that dude is. And now that you have the other teams out there, if it wasn't Wake Forest, it was going to be somebody else where you went, oh, we got to play them. Obviously, there's the storyline of Chase Burns leaving Tennessee. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Zach?
First off, you got to get past the regional, obviously, that you're hosting in Knoxville. You have to advance past that. You can't think about Chase Burns at all because my biggest fear is Southern Miss coming out of this thing and they're playing the Applebee's song or something because of all the drama that went down last year when they hosted the regional, the super regional, when Tennessee should have hosted it. And we remember all the, they don't even have an Applebee's down there. So I feel like there's some motivation there, and just the most Tennessee thing ever would be kind of losing to them and having that kind of be the storyline. But if you do advance past that, and if Wake Forest advances past their regional and you face each other, well, it's not like it's one and done. Even if you do lose to Chase Burns, who's pitched really well for Wake Forest, he's setting records, he's striking out 13, 14 guys a night, it seems like. He's pretty good. I mean, it's going to be tough to beat him, but, Wake's got to hit your pitching as well, and they've got to beat you again as well. And Wake has not been nearly as good this season as everyone expected. Preseason number 1, they were 500 in their conference, dropped a lot of games they shouldn't have dropped. Pretty much when Chase Burns wasn't pitching, it was a struggle for them at times. And they can also be very home run dependent at times. So if you can kind of limit that damage, I don't think that's a scary matchup at all for Tennessee. I think the Burns game could be tough, but outside of that, in that setting, I think that's a good scenario to play them in a super regional.
It would be a lot of fun. And Tennessee's the better team. And again, it was never going to be easy. Now, I see what I did. So on the same side of the bracket, you had Oklahoma and Florida State are the number 1 seeds, and then East Carolina. But that's just on the same side of the bracket, not who you would play down the line. But regardless,
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
it
starting to
is.
get off. Wake Forest doesn't advance past
Yeah.
that regional. It's not like I said, they haven't played that great this season.
No, they got swept in their uh, final series of the season. Then they went to the ACC tournament, made it to the semifinal.
They did beat UNC and then
They
lost.
did, and lost to Florida State, right? I think.
Yeah, I think if
Uh,
they were right on the bubble of being able to host a regional, and they just couldn't get it done.
yeah, and I think a lot of people were thinking like, how does ECU get the regional? Wake Forest doesn't, and there, a lot of consternation there. Play better. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
You
mean,
should have won more.
yeah, don't go 500 in conference play, and they had plenty of struggles. Their Friday night starter at the start of the season, got demoted. And we've seen that before. That can kind of happen at times. So they haven't Josh Hartle. They haven't got quite the production from him that they expected, and their pitching overall just hasn't been quite as strong. And I don't think their bats are quite as strong as they thought either. They lost a lot last season to the draft. And Tennessee lost some bats too, but Tennessee did a much better job of replacing those bats, I thought. I mean, this Tennessee lineup has way more firepower than I think any of us really expected coming into the season. We knew they'd be good, but I don't think anyone expected them to be this good, this consistent. They've just all season long. Even you mentioned Billy Amick earlier, that kind of had a rough SEC tournament, but then came through towards the end. He had been in a home run drought since the beginning of May, and there's just other guys stepping up that were able to kind of mask that, because early in the season, felt like he was carrying the offense at times. So when guys have gone through these little mini slumps, there's always somebody else there to pick them up, like several guys in most cases. And that's why I feel really good about the NCAA tournament, possibly getting to Omaha. It's just so many guys in this lineup that have done it all season. It's hard to see them just going ice cold all at the same time. It's possible. Anything's possible in baseball, but it seems unlikely.
Well, it's going to be a heck of a time. May 31st, 7:00. So what day is that? That's Friday. Friday at 7. Tennessee, Northern Kentucky. I believe it's Northern Kentucky's first trip to the NCAA tournament ever. And obviously, we know from history that regionals in Knoxville are one of the funnest sporting events that you can go to. If it ends up being Wake Forest, boy, that super regional next week is going to be something. Oh my gosh. But you got to get through the regional first, and we'll talk about it.
Teams like Northern Kentucky can be tricky. They probably feel like they have nothing to lose, so they're able to kind of let the nerves subside a bit and just go out there and play and kind of enjoy the experience. And then all of a sudden, you're in a dogfight.
I mean, kind of probably the most famous moment of Tony Vitello's entire tenure so far at Tennessee was a random opening round regional game against Wright State, and you beat them on a grand slam. It was an unbelievable moment, but you were down by 3 runs to Wright State. Let's not forget that. And so, yeah, you got to come out and you got to play. And I think they will. This team, I mean, I probably feel better about them overall just because of their kind of countenance. I guess what's the right word? The word we've been using in recent weeks. Their vibe.
Yeah,
it's just a little more level-headed. They're not hotheads like 2022, and I just like where this team's at. I like how they're playing. I like how they're gelling, and we've been saying it. You can win a College World Series off of vibes. You got good vibes right now. There's no doubt about that. It's gelling. So maybe it'll happen. We'll see. Anything else before we finish up with this Chaz Lanier news?
No. I mean, like you said, just keep the vibes going and get off to a hot start this weekend. Don't put yourself down early and have to climb back out of a hole.
Exactly. Don't even entertain something like that, and you'll be all right. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Chaz Lanier right after I tell you about Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee that's bringing sports betting to a whole new level. When you sign up for Zen Sports, you'll automatically earn up to a $100 no danger first wager. If your first bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $100. But there's even more good news. Zen Sports offers a one-of-a-kind VIP rewards program. If you qualify, you'll earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, you name it. There's even sportsbook bonuses, but the VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for VIP consideration, check out the program at zensports.com/VIP. What are you waiting for? Zen Sports offers true odds on all parlays, so get going and download their app at zensports.com today. Zen Sports. Betting just got better. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. No danger first wager limited to plus 500 odds to qualify. Boosted odds are derived from equivalent parlay bets offered in Tennessee. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee to bet. Zen Sports. Go download that app. The fun news from basketball continued because you got Chaz Lanier to commit over Kentucky. I mean, that's probably the most fun element of that entire situation was that you got him over Kentucky, technically over Kentucky and BYU too, but I think Kentucky was your main competitor there. And seeing Kentucky fans make excuses for why they didn't need Chaz Lanier was pretty hilarious because let's be completely honest, they so badly need Chaz Lanier right now. They needed that win for Mark Pope because he doesn't have a lot of wins on the basketball court, off the basketball court in his career. And so they needed it badly. And of course, I mean, Rick Barnes coming off of an Elite Eight, probably the greatest transfer basketball player that the SEC has probably seen since the transfer portal became what it is right now. And yeah, I mean, it was another great pickup, and I think rounds out a roster that's going to be really good this coming year. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I thought it was obviously a massive pickup. We kind of talked about it being the missing piece that this team really needed to go in and be a championship contender next season. You bring in the Kentucky aspect of it as well. This thing started feeling like a little squirrely there towards the end. Like, okay, this seemed like obvious that Lanier is going to go to Tennessee because he's from Nashville. Just he went in with this no contact tag in the portal, and the longer it was, kind of went, the more it felt like, oh no, we've seen this before. This is going to fall apart at the last minute, and it didn't. Tennessee was able to close the deal. They get him over Kentucky. Who knows what role NIL played? I don't think it's probably as big of a role as everybody thinks. I think the programs involved, especially Tennessee and Kentucky, they know what it takes to get these guys. They live in that world. They operate in that world, and in football and basketball, even baseball. They understand what it takes. I think what tipped the scales is the fact of Dalton Connect and what he did last season, and the fact that he's probably going to be like a top 10, top 13 pick in the NBA draft next month. Chaz Lanier clearly wants to go to the NBA. I think that would have been his preference to go ahead and go to the NBA. It just wasn't the smart move, and he didn't really have a lot of interest in get the invite to the combine. So obviously the NBA was not, the next step for him. He needs to go to Tennessee and playing for, kind of like Dalton Connect did, coming from Northern Colorado. The wild part about that is, several years, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even maybe, who would have ever thought that, a player wanting to get to the NBA is going to Tennessee over Kentucky? I mean, that's something that we wouldn't have dreamed of saying, especially before Rick Barnes was hired, and definitely in the early part of the Rick Barnes tenure. Kentucky was kind of like a factory for NBA, or they have been. I mean, you see half of these guys in the playoffs, the Devin Bookers and Jamal Murrays and Anthony Davis, like they're all Kentucky guys. I mean, that's what they do. And the fact that you were able to get a guy that wants to be there over Kentucky, I mean, it just speaks to where this program is. And, it's been a changing of the guard for a while now in basketball when it comes to Tennessee and Kentucky, the way Tennessee has had success against them in the Barnes era. But this really just like puts the cherry on top for me, it feels like.
Absolutely. It's really impressive. And now I think you're talking, three of your 5 starters are going to probably be transfers. You got to think Okpara is probably your starter. He would be right there with Estrella, and Igor Milicic, probably your 4, I would think. I mean, you don't really have another player that's really like him, and especially not a guy that's that tall and the kind of scorer that he is. Lanier at the 2, Zakai at the 1, maybe Jemai? Am I thinking that all the way through?
I think we've had that conversation before. Is he a starter or not? It feels like that's kind of.
Would it be Dubar?
That's going to be the interesting conversation that Barnes has to figure out this fall. It definitely feels like he's got some options, and there's no real obvious answer because you're losing Triple J, you're losing Vescovi, Adu, all yeah, Awaka. So there's this void of, okay, this is how we have done it. Now we're bringing in all these new guys. We have no idea how it's all going to mesh, how it's going to work out just yet. So I think you can look at it on paper and say like what makes sense, but until Barnes, kind of gets his hands on these guys and they're all together in a team environment, and really early in the season, I think they'll probably go through some trials and tribulations on the different lineups that work. I mean, that's why you get to November. I can't remember what the schedule looks like, but you play a tough team early in the season, you lose. There's really no reason to freak out at all. I think that we saw that this season. You outlasted some of the teams you lost to early in the year. Just got to figure out what works, what combinations work, and then by the conference play, you're hoping that you're like a well-oiled machine, basically.
Absolutely, and let's not forget for that kind of 3 spot, you got Cam Carr too,
Oh yeah,
who in his minutes this past season showed that I think he could really be an asset.
there's
Um,
depth.
there really is, and I think Tennessee would probably be preseason top 10ish, top 15, something like that. And then when that'll probably be adjusted up or down after we start to see, like last season, I forget exactly where you started out, but after everybody started seeing how good Connect is, there was sort of this from the national media, like, oh, okay, Tennessee's a little bit of a different animal than we thought they were going to be, and maybe you have another time like that. But I think with so many transfers, you're probably not going to top up to just like preseason top 5 or anything. But I think if everything came together, you have the kind of depth and potentially the talent to be right there, just like you were last season, perpetually top 5 all year. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun seeing Rick Barnes continue to kind of break through what's the right word? Break through the Rick Barnesness. Cuz we talked about that a lot last season. Just letting Dalton Connect go out there and be himself and just do what they did, just kind of ISO to Connect and be like, you go and score. That's against the Rick Barnes philosophy. He's been, my way or the highway, hard-nosed defense, or just a bunch of ball screens, kind of old style offense. And he still, he ran his offense last year, but just letting Connect go out there and be Connect was something we really haven't seen that much out of Rick Barnes. And is he going to do that this coming season now that he has so many? I mean, he went out to the transfer portal and got a bunch of offensive guys with Milicic and Dubar and the entire set of guys here, with Lanier being prime among them. He's gonna have dudes that can score, and is he gonna let them be freewheeling? I'm very interested to see it. It makes this and with every passing year, you're getting closer to Rick Barnes' retirement. How desperate does he get? How kind of does he just lay it all on the line and let his guys, play with their talent? And, he's maybe he'll let it fly, or maybe he won't. And, the talent will be maximized. We'll see. But I think there's a lot of really interesting elements with this basketball team now. And I think they're going to be really good. And I think they have the potential to be one of the best teams in America. And that's a lot of fun. It's how great is that? That we can just perpetually say that about basketball, football, baseball, softball. Like although softball lost this week in Alabama, and it was horrendous.
Yeah, they had some missed opportunities in that second game.
They should have made the College World Series. It's simple as that. They should have beat Alabama in that second game, but whatever.
Yeah, but as far as Barnes, I think he's showing that he's willing to adapt to the way that he has kind of went. I wouldn't say all in on the transfer portal, but he's fully accepted what it is and what it has to be if you want to compete, the way that you can quickly improve your roster, and seeing the way that worked out last season. I think that's why you saw him be so aggressive this season in the way that he built this roster. Right now, I mean, if you're Rick Barnes, your team's consistently around the top 10. You've got a tournament team every single year that can make a run. The vibes are great in Knoxville right now, especially for all the athletics. Barnes gets along with everybody. He loves being in Knoxville. It's not far from where he's from at all. So I mean, he's like gone the opposite of like Dabo at Clemson, where Dabo's just still resisting this portal era so much. And whatever, good for Dabo. I guess it's not sustainable to build programs through exclusively through high school recruiting now. For Barnes, I mean, a basketball coach is not quite as time consuming as being a football coach. You don't have a roster of 120 that you're trying to manage, and the recruiting 25 players every single year, whether it's through high school or the portal. It's a lot more time that I think you have on your hands to be a basketball coach. It's still time consuming. It's still tougher than it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But I think he's in a good spot right now where he doesn't have to go all out to just get what he can to build a roster. He's getting the guys he's targeting. He's got an administration behind him that's giving him what he needs. The collectives are doing their part. I mean, this is probably the most fun Barnes has had coaching basketball, maybe in his career at this point. I don't know what stop along the way where has seemed like it's been this good for Barnes. I know he's had times at Texas when the team was pretty good, and that's just such a different beast down there at Texas. You've almost got to be a politician to be a coach at Texas. It's a very unique program down there. Just go as long as you can go at this point. He seems happy. He doesn't seem overly stressed. He seems more at ease than he has in the past. So I don't really, I know we're approaching the end, but a few years ago, I feel like maybe we were wanting to see him the end, and not that we were wishing bad against Barnes. We just want to see something new. But I think the way he's adapted and really embraced this whole new era of college basketball has kind of energized him. It's energized the program, and stick around as long as you want to at this point.
Yeah, it really has been so encouraging to see how he's operated through all of this. Because you could have just folded it up and been like, "Oh, I'm at the end of my career. I'm not doing all this new stuff. This is ridiculous." The Dabo, you could have done the Dabo. Not that he's close to retirement age, really. Dabo's just an idiot, I think.
Yeah.
But man, it's been so good, and it's just going to be another solid year for Tennessee basketball, and that's a lot of fun. But I think that's it for this segment of the show. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Maybe next time I'll come in and I'll actually look at the bracket for the tournament correctly. I guess that we'll have to wait until the next basketball season to see if I can look at a bracket correctly. But
no, yeah.
I got that. That's why I can't do it correctly, because it only happens a couple times a year.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my excuse. Yeah. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Thanks to everybody for watching. We truly appreciate it. Couldn't do this show without you. Thanks again, and we will talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.